Well, just like that, the US is out of the World Cup. And, well, to say that that game was an absolute disaster for the US against Belgium is an understatement. I mean, everything that could go wrong for the US in this game against Belgium went wrong in this one. And in many ways, this performance was eerily similar to what we saw back in March, where remember back in March when the US played against Belgium and they got absolutely smashed in that game? Well, it was pretty much a repeat in this game as well. And one of the things that everyone had concern about the U.S. heading into this tournament is obviously the defending and even the goalkeeping situation. There was a lot of concern that the defense of this team is not good, and that well throughout this tournament they've been okay at least on the defensive end. There has been some shaky moment. The game against Turkey was a huge example of that, though you can kind of excuse the fact that they played backups in those games that is, and they also earned two shutouts doing this World as well, which is as many shutouts as they had in the previous 11 games that they had so far. But the one thing we know that so far when it comes to this tournament for the US is that they haven't really faced a legitimately good attack. And I'm not saying that this Belgium attack is an attack that is no slouch whatsoever. This Belgium attack is actually really decent, and as much as yes, there are a couple of the older golden generation player that's no longer in this team. Heck, Kevin De Bruyne didn't even play in this game whatsoever, and Jeremy Doku didn't even play for majority of this game as well, which I think that's also kind of what's disheartening for the U.S. in this one. Belgium didn't even put their best gun in this game, and it was just kind of a walk in the park because the defense decided that they weren't going to show up in this game. And I also think that the entire team also didn't show up in this game, and that it feels like the U.S. chose possibly the worst possible time to have one of the worst games that they've ever had in the World Cup, and really for this past year in this crucial knockout moment against Belgium. Now, first of all, look at the starting 11. We got Matt Free, Serginho Dest, Chris Richard, Tyler Adams, Anthony Robinson, Wester McKennie, Christian Pulisic, Tim Reed, Alex Freeman, Malik Tillman, and then also the highly debated Flo Balogun. I mean, all this talk I feel like coming into this game was about the controversies surrounding Flo Balogun, and I think after this, there's really not much we can talk about that. And I said this before, it is very unfortunate in terms of the situation that they play out, and I do think that this definitely leaves a huge stain in FIFA in terms of the fact that there should be a way where there's some shady business, but behind that is the reason why it allowed FIFA to decide to rescind the suspension that Flo Balogun has had, but it didn't really make a difference in this one whatsoever because yeah, Balogun might as well just not play in this game and no one would have noticed because he was kind of invincible in this one. To be fair, the whole US team was virtually invisible in this one, and the disaster clock all started from early in this game. Cassini would the game's first shot for Belgium, but he was denied by Freeze before De Ketelaere would hit one right to Freeze in the second minute. Belgium definitely started off strong in this one, and you sense that maybe that's a momentum carry from the Senegal game. That was just an incredible comeback that they had against Senegal, and I know this because I got a front row seat to that game. Well, not exactly a front row seat, but I was there in that game. I'm still kind of stunned to see how Belgium was able to come back from the dead in this one. But you just sense that this team had a lot of momentum, and this is another thing that I've heard from the media and even some fans saying that well, this should be pretty a easy result, and that the U.S. should be able to avenge their loss in 2014. This is not the same Belgium team that we've seen a couple of years ago, and that maybe the U.S. are now going to have to look forward to what they'll need to do, and if they stand a chance against Spain, when people forget that this Belgium team is still a good team. And yes, the last game against Senegal, they got very fortunate to come from behind. It was a combination of Belgium somehow found that spark that they had from the past couple of years to complete the comeback, and also just Senegal absolutely balled in the worst possible way. But you gotta remember, this is still a good Belgium among the top 10 in the FIFA ranking as well. So the fact that we dismissed them, and didn't we forget that this team also beat the US very badly back in the March friendly window? Yeah, I didn't think this was going to be any easy game for the US, even with the whole Balogun situation that was going on. And I also think that maybe Belgium used that Balogun situation as feel confident because they know that obviously with the whole ruling that's going on and the whole controversies around, they're obviously not happy about it. In fact, their FA even mentioned that they tried to appeal this at the very last second. FIFA basically said no, and yeah, Belgium basically just saying, well, if that's the case, then you just gave us some feel and we're gonna play angry in this game against the U.S. And Belgium was definitely playing angry in this one against the U.S. But it's also the first time I thought the U.S. just did not start on time. So far in this tournament, I thought the U.S. have done a very good job of starting on time, starting on the front foot. This is the thing I haven't seen with the U.S. in the past, at least for majority of the tournament, where sometimes they start off slow, fall behind the eight ball, and next thing you know, they aren't able to come back. But this is really the first time where we saw that they didn't start on time whatsoever, and they were under immense pressure early in this game. Tillerman would then put it wide from close to the eighth minute, but then the ninth minute, this was inevitable. I mean, when you allow that much pressure on Belgium, especially the talent that they had, you're eventually gonna get score on, and that's what happened. As get it, Deacon Larry would score from Raskin to make it 1-0 in favor of Belgium. Trussard then looked for another, but he puts that one over. Belgium has all the momentum, and you can clearly see this U.S. team. They look absolutely rattled. They look like they really need not only need this match break badly, but they wish that they could have had a redo because this is really the first time where this team just looked like they have finally faced some adversity. I believe this is the first time the U.S. of course have trailed in this tournament besides the Turkey game that is. I'm not gonna count the Turkey game because of the way it was virtually a glorified friendly with the way that the U.S. were already qualified. Turkey was already eliminated, and the U.S. of course playing some backup player. But this is really the first meaningful World Cup game where the U.S. really started to face some big adversity of going down, and how will they respond? Well, they at least kind of responded well after the match break because in the 31st minute he did it again. Billy Tillman. We saw him did scoring from a free kick attempt in the last game against Bosnia to pretty much seals it for the U.S. He does it again here from the free kick. Now, to be fair, it was deflected. It took a very lucky key deflection. But hey, up to this point, the U.S. has had such a good tournament that I always say when you're a good team, luck will always be on your side, and luck was definitely on the U.S. side up to this point, and then they immediately concede on the other end. So yeah, you know the old saying, you're always the most vulnerable when you just score. Well, the U.S. clearly didn't get that memo, and they completely switched off here. As De Larry would score again here for Belgium, this time from Croissant to make it 2-0, or not 2-0, 2-1 in favor of Belgium up to this point, and yeah, just poor defending all around for the U.S. I mean, all the goals that the U.S. conceded was just poor defending in every way, including that shocker that we'll talk about in just a bit. I mean, the first goal was the U.S. not clearing their lines whatsoever, and then bunch of ball watching defending. I mean, I don't know what was Tim Ream doing there, just kind of watching the player and letting De Ketelaere wide open there with a tap in, and then here he just got beat by De Ketelaere. I mean, when you're a defender, you cannot get beat like that. Like you can't have someone just dunk on you. That is bad defending all around, and yeah, just like that, the U.S. looked like they got to have a line with them getting the equalizer. Now instantly found themselves down again in this one. Freeze would then deny Raskin from close before Luca Bacchio would head it wide from the free kick in the 43rd minute. The U.S. continued to struggle defending set pieces. That was a common theme throughout this game where not only the defense was absolutely shocking in this one, but it was shocking in every way when it comes to defending set pieces. They weren't getting to the ball first. They weren't winning first ball in terms of those set piece chances. And when you're a defensive team and you're defending set piece, you don't get there first and win those 50-50 balls. This is exactly what can happen. You're going to get absolutely dunked on the set piece routine, and also they're getting overrun in the midfield. I mean, there was just no midfield whatsoever for the U.S. in this one. Belgium pretty much just walked through that U.S. midfield like a Swiss of cheese in this game. Balogun with that had a shot that was deflected wide in the 44th minute. Like I said, he was very quiet in this game. Flo Balogun. No, I'm not gonna blame this game entirely on him and the fact that I will also say that he basically offered no service whatsoever because where is Christian Pulisic? I mean, have you seen him in this game? Because we didn't even mention his name once in this one. He pretty much just went invincible in this one. Luke Bacchio then puts it wide from long range in the fourth man stoppage time, but we do head to halftime with the U.S. down 2-1, and that I think is the only positive coming out of the first half because that was probably the worst first half that the U.S. have played in this tournament, and now let's see how they of course regroup. Well, it looked like they regrouped pretty well coming out off the break. Whatever Pochettino said to this team kind of motivate this team a bit because they're starting to keep the ball a little bit. They weren't getting overrun in the midfield like they did in the first half. The final third play is a little bit lacking, but I thought eventually if they keep that possession and keep hitting Belgium back, eventually they might create something to get themselves one back in the game. But then in the 59th minute, oh boy. I mean, this it's got to be going up there as one of the worst goal that the US have conceded, not just in this World Cup, but all my time watching the US. And the funny thing about this is that as a person that watch MLS every single year and watch it pretty much every day, this is kind of something that you usually see in MLS a lot, and we can of course laugh about it. And it's ironic the fact that Matt Freese is an MLS goalkeeper playing for NYCFC. And heading into this tournament, I've already mentioned my concern about Matt Freese and that he has had some howler moment. I think the game against Nashville before this tournament was a great example of it, where he fumbled one that he should have saved, and he wasn't really in the best of form. And well, throughout this tournament, he's been okay. I wouldn't say he's been great. He's been good enough where I think he deserve a passable grade as a result, but this is just an unforgivable moment. In fact, I even said that he kind of had a Young Wei Hu moment here. For those that don't watch football, that is. So I think it was a couple of years ago where Young Wei Hu was about to kick a field goal for the New York Giants, and then as he was about to kick the ball, he basically got his foot caught under the turf, and yeah, obviously that he missed that field goal, and it was such an embarrassing moment. And guess what? It happened to Matt Freese. It's ironic the fact that it's happened to guys that plays for New York sports team that is. So yeah, he tried to come out. I mean, it shouldn't even led to that point where he came off his lines there. Anytime when you're a goalkeeper coming off your lines like this, I don't know what was Matt Freese thinking in terms of trying to take a triple. Like I was when I saw that play, I was going almost kind of screaming, and I'm pretty sure every U.S. fans are screaming, "Kick the goddamn ball out of the play! Just kick it out! Don't. Why are you coming out, and why are you possessing it? You are not Manuel Neuer. You do not become an outfield player and just trying to dribble around like fun. There was just no need for him to do that. So the fact that he decided to dribble out, try to be cute there, and then by the time he realized, oh crap, there's a Belgian player right near me. I gotta clear this ball away. He panicked and had the Young Wei Hu moment, and that led to the third goal for Belgium. As Venekit would score from De Ketelaere to make it 3-1 in favor of Belgium. And yeah, as I said, that is an unforgivable moment. I think of all the bad moments that the U.S. have in the World Cup, that is going to go up as one of the worst moments that the U.S. have ever had in the World Cup. Probably similar to right up there in terms of the Wando miss. I argue this is even worse than the Wando miss because the Wando miss back in 2014 against Belgium, yes, it sucks. That should have been the second goal and the goal that win it for the U.S. to move on to the quarter. But at least that was not a moment that really could have decided this game. I feel like this moment really decided for the U.S. And I know there's been some crazy comeback in this tournament, but no, not a lot of team is able to recover in that moment, and especially of how weak the mentality the U.S. was in that first half, how much they just capitulated after giving up the goal. There was just no coming back for the U.S. in that moment, and unfortunately for Matt Freese, I know he can do come back to his club form, and he can look like the goalkeeper of the year for NYCFC this year, but unfortunately, everybody will be talking about that moment. Everybody will revisit that moment and pin to the fact that yeah, Matt Freese is a great goalkeeper for NYCFC, but did you remember the Young Wei Hu moment he had in this World Cup? It's similar to what happened with Wando, where for a long time as a Quakes fan, I remember everybody when I mentioned Wando and we talk about Wando, everybody just talk about the Belgium game like it is. And unfortunately, this is going to be the same thing with Matt Freese. He's going to be mentioned this over and over again, no matter how great of a game that he can get. And yeah, just that moment really was the moment where I just thought the U.S. were done. Like they are going to get a limit made it in this tournament. There's just no coming back from that kind of moment for the U.S. Trussard with that had a shot that was deflected wide. Pulisic, of course, was subbed off apparently for injury. I don't know if that's the case because he was pretty much invincible in this one. Berhalter, of course, comes in. Berhalter was really the only guy that I can say that actually had a good performance. And this is no disrespect to Sebastian Berhalter. I really like Sebastian Berhalter, and I like how what he's doing with Vancouver, and certainly the Whitecaps are very happy to have him. But when Sebastian Berhalter is your best player in this game, yeah, it's no wonder why the U.S. are having a nightmare game. But anyway, as I said, the U.S. they might be done. I was kind of being generous here because I thought they were done. Like I didn't think there was gonna come back in the air. Even with the hydration break, that you would pray that maybe there's a huge spark on this team. It wasn't happen. The shots were 13-4 for Belgium up to this point. The hydration play clearly did not spark the U.S. at all. Berhalter did look for one back, and he almost did. I mean, he put a wonderful shot there. That was a very Berhalter-esque kind of goal there from Sebastian, but just couldn't put it on target. Balogun was in on goal there, but he was denied by Courtois. Courtois pretty much was a spectator in this game. He didn't really have much to deal with. The U.S. of course finally woke up, but I feel like it's too late in this one. I didn't think they were gonna come back, despite the fact that I think John Strong he tried his best to give the U.S. fans a hope, and even Stu Holden tried to say this game, of course, is not over. It's over. Like there's no way that Belgium is gonna do the same thing that Senegal did a couple of days ago as well. And in the third minute of stoppage time, this was pretty much the final nail, as Lukaku was scored from Van Eken to make it 4-1 in favor of Belgium, and this goal pretty much sums up the U.S. performance. And as I said, when Chris Richard, which is supposed to be the best defender on this team, when he's making mistakes and giving away a brutal turnover their own half, it's been a nightmare game for the U.S. And in the end, that's what happened in this one. Just an absolute gut punch for this U.S. A tournament that you know I think there's going to be a lot of question coming out of this, and actually I'll get to it in just a bit. My top of the stats first: 15 shots compared to the 6 that the U.S. had, 7 shots off goal compared to the 2 that the U.S. had, 3 shots off target compared to 2 that the U.S. had, 4 shots on block compared to the 2 that the U.S. had, and possession-wise, 57% compared to 43% possession that Belgium has in this game. And as I said, there's going to be a lot of question coming out of this game, and a lot of pointing, and a lot of things that we might have to dissect in terms to talk about what went wrong in this game. I mean, honestly, as much as I know the analysts will dissect to death when it comes to what went wrong in this game, I think the easiest way to say what went wrong in this game for the U.S. is one, they overlooked Belgium. I know this is not the same Belgium as before, but this is still a decent team. This is still one of the top teams, at least if you look at the FIFA ranking as well. And I feel like the U.S. Overestimated that. The whole Balogun situation, I think that kind of play a part of where it really give some fire for Belgium, and kind of give them a little chip on the playing with a chip on the shoulder kind of moment as well. But also, I think the most important thing that went wrong for the U.S. in this one is simply the fact that they decided to suck at a time when you just can't suck, which means that they pretty much chose the worst possible time to play their worst game in this tournament, and went back to the March international break in the March camp all over again, where they were just getting play out in the park by the likes of the same Belgium team, and even against Portugal as well. And when you add all that in combination, that's this disaster for the U.S. And now the ultimate question I think people will also need an answer is the fact that was this considered to be a successful World Cup for the U.S.? And I think some people might say yes because of the way that this is the first time that the U.S. have won two World Cup games. This is the first time that the U.S. of course got maximum points, and I believe this is also one of the first time that the U.S. actually topped their group in a World Cup, which those are no smart feat. I know when you look at the opponent that they faced weren't exactly quality opponent, but as the old saying goes, you can only play against who's in your group, and the U.S. took care of business when the pressure was clearly there for them to do so. But as I said before, I feel like winning the group and moving on into the next round, it's all good and stuff, but that just kind of feels like it's the bare minimum. Like it would be an absolute disaster, even more of a disaster if the U.S. would have got group similar to what they did in Copa America in home floor as well. But it's all about whether if they can get further and even get as far as the quarterfinal. And while they did their job against Bosnia in the round of 32, this game was always going to be a good measuring stick. The fact that have we learned from past mistake? Had the U.S. finally has the guts and the glory in terms of going toe to toe against a team that maybe is kind of having a fading thing time and kind of having their window of competing starting to shut on them, but it's still considered to be a good team. And yeah, we found out that no, the U.S. clearly are still not in that same category, and in many ways, the U.S. are kind of stuck in this mediocrity kind of category where they're good enough in terms of beating again the teams that they should be, but they're not good enough yet when it comes to competing against some of the bigger teams and some of the European team. And to be fair, some might say that's okay because some of these European teams they always will have the upper edge, and this has always been the case in terms of the history of the World Cup. There's a reason why no uh World Cup team coming out of North America or even in the Asian or even the African continent has ever won the World Cup. The two continents that have won the World Cup is either coming from CONMEBOL or UEFA, but I just feel like the frustrating thing of this is the fact that there's been a lot of hypes around this team for the last couple of years, and there's been a lot of promise that this generation is probably the best generation that the U.S. has ever had, and there's no doubt when it comes to all the players and the talents that these players can get. Yes, no doubt. I think this is the best generation compared to earlier generation. This team definitely has much more talent when it comes to some of the older U.S. team that we used to have. But the thing about having a more talented team, at least in the World Cup, and especially when you're playing as a team, it doesn't always guarantee the fact that you will do well. How many times have people forget that just because you have the best talented roster, it doesn't always guarantee that you would always be the favorites or at least have the most success in tournament plays, because it's not about just having the best quality team. It's also about the teamwork and also the chemistry and also that tough mentality of the fact that when things start to go wrong, how will we respond? Can you respond in a good way where you can overcome adversity? And this is kind of the reason why we see a lot in some of these European teams. England was a good example yesterday, and that's why yesterday I was so proud of England and what they did. Even though I know I said earlier that I wish they didn't make it hard on myself, I'm just kind of using that as the English call a banter there. The fact that I didn't really mean the fact that England had to try to make it hard on me, just like what Minnesota has had. But I was proud of how England was able to dig deep, and in such a hostile environment like they did facing against Mexico at the Azteca, they've been able to overcome that, and that's kind of the reason why even though I still don't think England's gonna go all the way, and I still don't think it's coming home this tournament. At least this is the difference between a European team that has been there, done that, and has that mental fortitude to be able to move on. The U.S. don't have that, and that's going to be something that has to change. I think this is kind of the thing that U.S. fans and even especially the soccer federation needs to understand. It's not about just the quality on this team. Yes, quality of this team and bring some of the best players on this team. Sometimes will be or bring the best quality of this team. It does matter in some of these games, but what is also going to be key in terms of building a successful team and building a team that can go further than the round of 16 and even go to the quarterfinal or even go toe to toe with these European teams. This is where you need the mentality, the strong mentality, and also the togetherness to be able to do so. When you don't show that, like what the U.S. did in this game, it just feels like we're kind of stuck in that category. And unless if that doesn't change, it really doesn't matter. Hell, the U.S. can produce a Lionel Messi type of player on this team within the next four years. But as long as if they don't have the strong mentality and if these players are continue to be soft and doesn't have that attitude of getting stuck in deep and deal with any unfortunate things that go wrong for them and able to overcome it, this team will never get past the round of 16. And heck, this team will never get past the mediocrity kind of stage label that it is. And this also doesn't just go with the US, but this goes with both Canada and Mexico as well. The three teams that got knocked down the round of 16 in terms of the being the host nation. It's kind of the common thing, for Mexico. I will give Mexico credit the fact that I think they look by far the better team out of the three when it comes to getting knocked down in the round of 16. It was a little unfortunate there to not be able to do so. Canada, that one was kind of unfortunate as well, but it's also the fact that Canada kind of had no one to blame themselves for not putting their chances away and just kind of keep Morocco in that game as long as possible, and then they just ran out of gas. And yeah, and then of course we have the U.S. performance that is that. Yeah, this kind of, I mean, if you want my opinion in terms of just whether or not if this is a successful tournament or not for the U.S., I'm just gonna unfortunately say no. I don't think this has been a successful tournament. Yes, I understand that this team did a lot of good things in the group stage, but I expect the U.S. to do well against those bad teams. I mean, you have to do it, otherwise there might be even more concern with this team. But the fact that once again in this game against Belgium, and as we have seen in before when it comes to the U.S., not having that mental toughness and not having that desire to be togetherness and commit the forward and really just kind of get stuck in when the things gets tough for them, that's kind of the reason why the U.S. once again got eliminated, and that all the good things that they did in the not or on the group stage really is kind of just completely erased because of what it just feels like this team hasn't really quite moved forward and hasn't really quite got to that upper echelon of a point where they can now face against some of the better team and have that skill set and have that mental toughness along with the quality be able to go toe to toe against some of these European teams. But there you have it. That is pretty much it when it comes to talking about the U.S. I'm pretty sure I could spend another 30 minutes talking about this. I kind of got a little bit long in terms of kind of rambling about this, but I have to because every single tournament there's always that needs a bit of a reflection time in terms of how the U.S. of course play. And let me know in the comments below what do you think of this as well, and the fact that what needs to change with this team. It's pretty obvious that I think what needs to change is the fact that these players need to realize that they need to be stronger when it comes to their mentality, and gotta also realize that they do have the quality to show for it, because we saw what happened in the Paraguay game. That was a game that can shows you what the U.S. could do when they are playing up to their potential and when they have that mental fortitude to go at teams. And if they, of course, show that same quality against Belgium in this one, I'm pretty sure the scoreline would be as lopsided as what we saw today. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I, of course, will see you guys next time.